And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Flying weather for Thursday morning. A lot of VFR here in the interior with IFR about the crest of the Brooks Range on out to the eastern Arctic coast. Area of IFR here over the western Gulf of Alaska, trying to extend up in toward Prince William Sound, probably catching Montague Island there. And IFR along the north shores of the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, back to the west-northwest across the Bering Sea, and another zone here over the western Aleutians to about Atka. Otherwise, the southeast coast, North Gulf Coast, marginal VFR. And for the afternoon, it stays pretty marginal for the Panhandle. Marginal VFR across the Gulf up to the North Gulf Coast, covering Prince William Sound, eastern Kenai Peninsula. Marginal VFR here for the western Alaska Range, and some IFR still over the east central Brooks Range out to the eastern Arctic coast. VFR on the western part of the state here. Not too bad over the eastern and northern Bering Sea. A few patches of marginal VFR there from the northwest coast on down to either north or south of St. Lawrence Island. And some IFR now here coming sliding up along the east side of Kodiak Island. And a big area of IFR out here over the Bering Sea covering most of the Aleutians. And that area pretty much holds out here through Friday morning, maybe marginal for Atka, but eastern Aleutians, marginal VFR to IFR. IFR spreading into the Pribilofs, but the southwest coast here staying VFR northward to the west central Arctic coast VFR. A little bit of IFR possible point lay down to Cape Lisburne. And for the eastern Brooks Range area and the north slope, out to the eastern Arctic coast stays IFR there. And so looking at some IFR here up along the North Gulf Coast as the Panhandle stays mostly marginal, but VFR for Kodiak Island. And mostly VFR for the island here into the afternoon hours. IFR back in the picture here for especially the northern Panhandle and along the coast. Gulf of Alaska on up into western Prince William Sound. IFR here along the southwest coast covering a big, just about all of the Bering Sea. Aleutians IFR into the western Alaska Peninsula. The interior, pretty good. VFR, Copper River Basin, Kuskokwim Valley, down into northeast Bristol Bay, all the way up, covering all the Yukon River, right up to the south slopes of the Brooks Range, and some marginal VFR there in the mountains. And the Arctic coast, mostly VFR. Anatuvik and Atigan, IFR tomorrow, especially on the northern entrances. Lake Clark and Merrill, look for marginal VFR times throughout the day. Same forecast for rainy. Windy, kind of marginal early on, mostly VFR in the afternoon to evening. And Isabel, VFR, Mentasta, VFR, and Tanita, VFR. Portage, kind of marginal, and Chilcoot and White, marginal as well. Freezing levels here, 2,000 feet right along the North Gulf Coast, 4,000 feet over the eastern interior, and then the 2,000 foot here extending from the eastern Arctic coast southwestward right into Kuskokwim Bay and covering the northern Bering Sea here, and about 4,000 feet over Bristol Bay with 6,000 feet over the southwest Bering. Icing, none expected of any significance out here to the west, including the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, right into the west coast. As you head into the central interior, eastward to the border, better chance of some isolated moderate icing here, mixed or rime, eastern Arctic coast, all the way down to the Kenai Peninsula, and then a better chance of some considerable moderate icing for the North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle. And for the jet stream, we've got strongest winds at 33,000 feet, either to the southwest or to the southeast or the east, and then back here to the west or well to the south of the Aleutians, with a upper trough here of low pressure right over the interior down into the northeast Pacific, and also kind of covering the southern Bering Sea here. And for the 9,000 foot winds, a little bit more of a wind pattern here at this elevation along the west coast there, north St. Lawrence Island 30 knots, northwest 35 from the Pribilofs down to the eastern Aleutians, or I'm sorry, Alaska Peninsula. A little lighter for the eastern Aleutians and very light here for the central and western chain. And low pressure near the Kenai Peninsula, south to north flow here, anywhere from 30 knots over the eastern Gulf. 45 to 50 knots here, Yakutat into the Copper River Basin all the way up to about Eagle. And a good southwest flow continues. The wet weather pattern for the Panhandle, 35 to 45 knots. And to 3,000 feet, the strongest winds offshore here, 35 to 40 knots there from the southwest, more of a southerly direction here up to the eastern North Gulf Coast. Light under low pressure in the interior, and a breeze, 25 to 35 knot winds at the most here, right along the west coast down to the Alaska Peninsula. Very light winds out to the west and over the Bering Sea. And for turbulence, not too bad here. Got some areas of isolated moderate possible along the west coast, Nunivak Island, Alaska Peninsula, Prince William Sound, to a little ways east of Cape St. Elias, and also here for the coastal areas of the northern Panhandle.